Rebel Force Radio presents
Experimental Unit Clone Force 99. The defective clones with desirable mutations. They call themselves the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch.
This is the Bad Batch After Show.
Oh yeah, once again, Bad Batch proving that it is really a sequel to the Clone Wars. A sequel to... Oh, not you, Mac. Not yet. Wrong button. Oh, see, spoiler alert, Jimmy Mac is here.
Surprise.
I always like to give him the big introduction. Well, we'll still do the big introduction. But anyway, welcome back to Rebel Force Radio and the Rebel Force Radio After Show. Of course, it's Thursday night, which means we are talking not about The Mandalorian. No, we are talking about The Bad Batch. We got 6 more episodes left in Season 2, including this one, Episode 11, Metamorphosis. And they gave us a lot to talk about tonight. I think that it was a very straightforward episode, but if we scratch beneath the surface, I think there are a lot of implications. So we hope that you give us a call as the program unfolds. Certainly participate in the live chat and let us know what your thoughts were about this episode. And of course, the whole season of Bad Batch. It's winding down. I mean, we're certainly, we've got fewer episodes ahead than we had behind us. And I'm hoping that this is a sign for what's to come. I'm feeling momentum. I got to say, this episode made me feel like maybe we're going to be leaving things like Sid, behind. It seems like there's some fractures there. So maybe this is it. We'll find out. And by we, of course, I mean myself. My name's Jason, if you're new to the show. And my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mac.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star
Surprise.
Wars fans. What?
I said surprise.
Oh, okay. I was like, what was
Yeah,
that?
surprise, you're here.
It's way too early for Puffer Pig. So we'll put him aside. Don't worry, folks. It's not going to be that kind of show because we got a lot of meat on the bone, as I like to say. And there's a lot to talk about with this episode. I was so excited to see the return of the Zillo Beast. And it took me a couple of minutes, I was like, I recognize that thing. It was the no eyes. Because if you look at the Zillo Beast, I mean, yeah, it has eyes, but it's not prominent right in front. So at that size, it kind of looks like Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors.
Feed me.
Just the beak. Yeah, feed me.
Feed me.
But yeah, right there, if you see, the eyes aren't so prominent.
No.
But it did all start to add up that this was indeed the return of the Zillo Beast. I think the last time we saw the Zillo Beast was 2010, April 2010. And here he is back to inform and entertain Zillo Beast. It's interesting because where we left off with the Zillo Beast was Palpatine, then Chancellor Palpatine, ordered a doctor on Coruscant to have the Zillo Beast cloned. Yeah, and this is after they let the Zillo Beast out, and the thing rampaged all over Coruscant and attacked the Senate chamber.
Yeah.
I mean the building itself. Not
the Zillo Beast strikes back. I think that was that was the episode. Now, the instructions that Palpatine gave for Zillo Beast, that all happened off camera. We now know Tech is the one that confirmed for us that it's a clone of the Zillo Beast. But the dialogue confused me a little bit. And I was kind of irritated at Tech because Hunter asks, the Emperor cloned the Zillo Beast. And he's like, yes and no. The decision to clone the Zillo Beast was done when the Emperor was still Chancellor. It's like, what kind of semantics is Tech? He's splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
The Zillo Beast was cloned. Can you imagine living with this guy?
Right. It was the same guy.
Right.
Maybe he had different title that he was under, but it's still the same guy. And,
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
and
is kind
then.
of odd. I think Jason, though, that's really just done to get viewers caught up with where we left off with the Zillow Beast last time,
They got to dumb it
and to
down.
put a time frame in place.
Right.
And
Yes.
they do it a couple of times when they mention that it's the same type of creature that destroyed Coruscant during the war. So
Right.
during the Clone Wars and stuff. But yeah, so excited. Somebody reminded me. They said, "Hey, you recently mentioned Zillow Beast on the show as being one of those loose ends." And I do kind of recall saying that, but I don't remember under what, within what
it's ringing a bell
context
for me as well,
Yeah,
actually, because
yeah.
we were talking about opportunities for this series to close up some of those loose ends. And the Zillow Beast, hey, check it off the box, or check it off the list. What we know that this is Zillow Beast 2.0. This is not the... but interestingly, if you clone the Zillow Beast... And the Zillow Beast that we met in the Clone Wars was full-sized. He had already grown. Why is he a baby Zillow Beast?
Well, I mean, that's how cloning works. They get grown in a test tube, and just look at
okay.
why
I
is
wasn't thinking
Boba
about that. Right?
Why is
You're
Boba's fat small? Yeah, they have to start life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They didn't duplicate it. They cloned it.
You must have
been a
done
long week,
terrible. You must have done terrible in all of your cloning courses at the university.
I must have.
Because,
I must
you
have. I thought I had a real
clearly
gotcha.
One ear and out the other with you.
Right. This
I
is
took
the
notes
Zillow
during my
Beast.
cloning course.
This is Zillow 1.0. From the Clone Wars. I got to say though, I thought that when they had the little doggy version, and that's what Zillow Beast reminded me of when he was wee. I was getting the Demodog vibes from Stranger Things. I was thinking of what was his name? The Dart. I think that was the name of the one that was kind of friendly with the kids there, but. Yeah, the Little Shop of Horrors, Audrey, is definitely. I definitely see that as well. But something that I didn't. Well, you know what? We didn't do the tail of the tape. Let's do the tail of the tape. That way we can make
Have to do the
official
tail of the tape.
the discussion.
Come on.
Rebel Force Radio, Bad Batch After Show. Of course, that's what you're watching right now. Talking about Season 2, Episode 11, Metamorphosis. Directed by Saul Ruiz, a common name that we hear, goes back to the Clone Wars days. Written by, this is a new name for me, written by Sabir Perzada. Sabir Perzada. And a score, of course, by the great Kevin Kiner. Original air date, for those of you listening to this or watching it in the future, March 1st, 2023. We meet some new characters right off the bat. And I was wondering if this guy, we got a picture of him right here. If this dude, this is
Dr.
Hemlock.
Yes.
If him and who are the other ones? We had Dr. Skaldar, we had Emery Carr. They were all there at that cloning facility, Mount Tantus. Which I don't know that do they ever say Mount Tantus in the show? I mean, it's credited. It's known that it's Mount Tantus because we saw it at the end of season 1. So this cloning facility, and it's got some expanded universe roots, right? Goes back to Heir to the Empire, I believe. Mount Tantus.
Oh yeah. Mount Tantus on the planet Wayland is where the Emperor. Waylon Jennings, yes,
one of my
just
favorite places.
Good
to go.
old boys. Okay, that's where the Emperor had stored his cloning cylinders, and this was back in the Thrawn trilogy, and it's where Luke Skywalker had a showdown with a clone named Luke Skywalker. I say Luke because he had 2 U's. Luuke. Skywalker.
So
and
a long ooh.
They cloned Luke because they went to the bottom of Cloud City and got his hand. So they made a clone out of Luke. But Mount Tantus, yeah, and it was the Emperor's warehouse. Lots of action and excitement happened at Mount Tantus in the Thrawn trilogy. And here it is, coming back in Bad Batch. Now, we got a taste of Mount Tantus and the planet Wayland at the end of season 1. So, Zillo Beast aside, I was fist pumping by the return of Mount Tantus because I feel like this is a really tantalizing storyline that I wanted to see season 2 pick up on way before episode 11.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were going to roll right into Tantus and stuff, but no, they have to stretch it out and everything, fill up adventures for the Bad Batch, running errands for Sid.
Yeah.
So,
now, do we think though that this Hemlock guy and some of these others that you see at Mount Tantus, could they be part of the same organization that we see Dr. Pershing? Fast forward many years into The Mandalorian. This is the same outfit.
Mm-hmm. Well, they wear the patch that indicates there's cloning going on with whatever position they're in. Because young Boba, when they showed the classroom of Daniel Logan's in Attack of the Clones, they all had that patch on their uniform. And then we see that similar patch again on Pershing. And then we see the doctors at Mount Wayland or Mount Tantus all wearing the patch.
They're wearing the patch. So they're all
older.
Yeah.
His name is Dr. Royce Hemlock. According to
my bad.
Credits.
Proper
Royce.
Respect. Royce.
Yes, Royce. And of course, hemlock means poison, Not
I didn't realize that. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hemlock. Have you ever heard stories I think it's a medieval thing. He was poisoned by hemlock. It's a naturally growing weed that's toxic for humans to consume.
Oh, interesting. See what you learn. Rebel Force Radio after show. Hemlock. So they are part of that group. What's sort of curious about them, and you talk about that patch, Jim, and that logo, that goes all the way to Camino. And
yes,
Camino, they literally destroyed Topoka City. They destroyed all of the cloning capabilities of that system, but yet they still kept that same patch. It's kind of sick. These were the people that were in on in some ways the destruction of that world, and yet they're sort of keeping that alive.
Well, I think they're just carrying on with the science that they were undertaking at Camino. It wasn't all Kaminoans there. And the reason I say that is because it appeared Dr. Hemlock and Nala Se had a history. It seemed like they had worked together. Maybe they were peers. And I think there were more than Kaminoans at the facilities on Camino prior to its destruction. There were other scientists involved.
Yeah.
And I just had a feeling that there's some sort of history between these two. There was a familiarity between the two of them.
Oh, for sure. But
yes.
she's been, think about last time we saw her, it was season 1. We're assuming that it's a couple of years between seasons. So she's been in captivity. So they probably have had a lot of uncomfortable conversations like this. But what I thought was so interesting was, what Tech says at the end, that, they didn't destroy, it was the way he articulated it, they didn't destroy, Topoka City to stop cloning. They did it so they could control the cloning, and they've transferred all of the the cloning operations to these vessels. And they all seem to maybe be, working on different aspects of the same thing, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, Palpatine wouldn't want all of his cloning efforts to be able to be destroyed in one fell swoop. So he's sending these vessels out there, and there's very few people or beings that really understand how to make it work. And you see at the end with Lama Su. He's like, boy, it must be frustrating to have all the resources, but not the know-how. He realizes that, the Empire might have all the money in the world, the best labs, the best of everything, but they don't know how to do it the way the Kaminoans know how to do it.
Knowledge is power. That's what I've always been told. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power big time, because we know what the knowledge is that Hemlock is able to get out of Lama Su.
Well, yeah, at
leverage.
Least, revealing info about Omega.
Mm-hmm.
And they just know that she's out there somewhere. I mean, they still are assuming the Bad Batch was wiped out on Kamino. But everyone's aware that Omega had left Kamino prior to its destruction. So there's no reason to think she would have returned, and no reason to assume she is dead.
Well,
she wasn't there when it was destroyed. So
that's true. She wasn't. No, she was on Kamino.
No, I mean in the mind of the Empire, I don't think they were aware of Omega's presence.
They wouldn't know Omega from anything. But at some point, I would imagine that Hemlock is going to be investigating who this Omega is, and she's going to get tied to the Bad Batch, and then someone's going to say, "Well, the Bad Batch were destroyed, sir." And then, but we also know that there are whispers and there are rumors out there, so that they weren't destroyed. So
and
you've
Crosshair.
got Crosshair, huge loose end. But so you've got kind of inside the Empire, you've got people that are at odds. You've got the Rampart faction, which he's gone, but Rampart had a vested interest in keeping the Bad Batch's survival a secret, because it didn't look good on him.
Right.
And now you got the cloners in that side. Now they have a vested interest in finding the Bad Batch that the Empire officially says are gone. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
I mean, Rampart was told that the Bad Batch survived.
Right, he was. But he wanted to cover it up. That's why he was killing people. That knew the truth.
Because that's on him.
Right.
That's
exactly.
on him if they survive. So he doesn't need anybody spreading that rumor around, but I don't know if the information has been confirmed for him at this point.
Well, he's in prison now.
It's hard to say. That's one of the things that keeps coming up in these conversations about the Bad Batch. It's like, what does Rampart know? And what doesn't he know? It's like, I don't know.
Right. Well, he definitely knows that he knows that he was told that the Bad Batch survived, and he quickly disposed of that guy, so that it doesn't paint him in a bad light. That's for sure. Let's talk real quick about Sid. So Sid is back, or was back for a short time, but as Omega said, she didn't do anything to help them. She tried to help us. Nothing to help. And
nothing.
So she tries to sweeten the deal. I get the impression that Sid could like murder your family on Christmas morning, and she would still say, forget about that. I got another mission for you boys.
Hey, where does
she get repercussions for her?
Where does she get her tips? Who is her intelligence source? How does she know all of this stuff that's going on?
How does she know that stuff?
I was feeling a lot of relief when I heard them say, "Hey, this is probably our last mission for this Sid."
Yeah.
But Tech says Sid knows too much about the Bad Batch,
right,
and they fear that she will use that info against them. And we've been picking up hints of this happening, and we've been discussing this going down, Sid stabbing them in the back pretty much since Sid came on the scene. And Sid's been on the scene way too long. Do something, Sid. Are you going to backstab these guys? What are you going to do? Just do it already. Just do it. I'm tired of waiting.
Good, bad, indifferent. Who cares? I'm with you. Just do something.
Right.
Just do something.
But I'm happy to hear that the guys are looking to cut the cord and move on without old Sid. Have you noticed that Hunter seems exhausted this whole season. He just like every time they show him with his helmet off, he's just like,
Well, he's a
just
parent
seems-
now,
he-
right? He's got that dad look.
exhausted. Yeah, but it's not like Omega is, needing to, get feedings at 3 a.m. in the morning, waking everyone up.
Right, right.
That's kind of the reaction that I get from Hunter. He hasn't had much sleep lately, but he
is
seems
exasperated.
exhausted. He does seem exhausted, poor guy.
Yeah. And I got to give credit, to Nala Se, jumping back to her for a minute, because she seems to be holding firm. There she is in that prison cell.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm sure they're not, real kind to her. And it seems as though, despite the fact that she's likely been there for a good while, maybe as long as a couple years, she's not backing down. She refuses to help them. So she must know what they're really up to.
Oh, yeah. And she does reveal that she knows the Emperor's master plan for cloning. She reveals that. And she says she's not going to assist him in that. And that's what she's all about. She stands up for her principles. And that's the biggest difference between Lama Su and Nala Se. At the end of this episode, you see Lama Su bargaining with the Empire, making a deal to win back his freedom by exposing Omega. He's being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
He just wants to be set free. I mean, it's
Right.
a natural reaction, of course, but he doesn't care if he's assisting the Empire while doing that. He just wants out. Meanwhile, Nala Se, she stands up for what she believes in. And she's going to sit in there in prison, and she could probably be living a good life. I was drawing parallels between her and Galen Erso in Rogue One.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but doing.
I can see that.
Because Galen played ball.
Mhm.
Galen played ball. At first, he resisted. He split and went and hid out and tried to live the life of a farmer, but that didn't work. So he really just had no other choice. But he saw opportunity to sabotage the Empire, so he played ball.
Sabotage.
Yes, sabotage. I say
Well,
sabotage. You say sabotage.
I just had a thought, though. How do we know that Nala Se doesn't pull a Galen Erso? Palpatine has lots of trouble with those clones. I mean, that's why Snoke looks, like Snoke. I mean, he doesn't look, he looks malformed and all of that. So wouldn't that be interesting if Nala Se is like Galen, kind of working on the inside to never quite give him what he needs?
Or instead of programming a weakness into the Death Star that makes it explode when you blow a torpedo into the exhaust hatch, she has a secret weapon, and that's Omega. We've been wondering what Omega's deal is this whole time. Maybe Nala Se has some way to activate Omega, and turn Omega on, and we find out what her purpose is and what makes her really a part of the Bad Batch. She's an altered clone.
Right.
She's has specific mutations that give her talents and skills. What are they still? We're just trying to figure that out. And she's still a kid too, so it's hard to put that stuff into perspective because she hasn't fully developed. But still, maybe it's something as easy as flipping a switch and you have Super Omega, and she can't be stopped. So we'll see. We'll see. It's got to be leading somewhere. The mystery of Omega
Could explain too, like you're saying, Jim. It could explain how she seems to have these glimpses of these abilities. But that there's something, latent, laying underneath. That's a very cool idea. What if she was like the ultimate sleeper agent, and all of a sudden she just, there
has to be something there. There has to be something there.
For sure. This is 2 nights in a row, I got to tell you, that I felt bad for the monster of the week. Last night it was Mandalorian and the alligator tortoise or whatever the hell that thing was. And
Turtle
tonight
gator.
tonight it was Zillo Beast. You know, these creatures, they're just doing what they're born to do. It's really hard to find fault with them. And it just reminds me of like King Kong, you know. Poor guy's up there on the Empire State Building, found himself a beautiful babe, and all these airplanes are coming and shooting him and stuff. He's just being King Kong. He doesn't know anybody. He's not trying to hurt anybody, really.
Yeah.
Unless you get in his grill.
But the Zillo Beast almost seems sort of semi-sentient. And I'll tell you why. It's because in the Zillo Beast Strikes Back, season 2 of the Clone Wars, the Zillo Beast gets loose in Coruscant and specifically targets the Senate Rotunda because it knows Palpatine is in there. And it almost seems like it understands Palpatine had taken it captive and is doing all of these tests and cloning to it and what have you. And so it was almost out to destroy Palpatine at that moment. Luckily, the Jedi were there and they stopped it all from happening. As far as it being,
I got a theory here on the Palpatine attraction. I like your idea that he senses that, you know, Palpatine is inevitably the one that's causing all this problem. But we know the Zillo Beast consumes energy because that's how it grows. I wonder if there's something in Palpatine, that Sith energy that we see manifest as lightning and all, you know, force lightning and all of that, that is drawing the Zillo Beast towards it.
no, I think it's more personal.
Oh, really?
I think it's
the
the Zillo Beast.
the revenge, right?
The Zillo Beast was privy to certain conversations that Palpatine was having about the Zillo Beast itself. Now, that you bring up the fact that it feeds on energy, that's something that wasn't really revealed in the two Zillo Beast episodes from the Clone Wars. It's sort of inferred because at the end, the Zillo Beast, they have the Zillo Beast contained with these electronic restraints.
Right.
And it seems like the Zillo Beast breaks right through those things and almost like you see it like kind of feeding off of it, but it's never really laid out for us like it is here.
No, I think he's awakened by a proton torpedo or something like that. That's how Zillo Beast, you know, which is very Godzilla, right? I mean,
it was on the planet Malistar, you know, where the Dugs are from, like Sebulba, right? The Republic went there, and it was Anakin and Mace, and they were commanding these clone troopers in battle, and they had some sort of big weapon, and it was like an electronified weapon, a bomb of some sort, and Palpatine gave the order to use it, and this wiped out all the Separatist droids, but it created this giant sinkhole. This crater suddenly appeared, and at the bottom of the crater was the Zillo Beast, and the Dugs said they thought the Zillo Beast was extinct, but they were covering something up. Yeah. I remember they were covering something up because Anakin and Mace walked in on a couple of Dugs and they were looking at some plan or something. And as soon as they walked in, the Dugs, they rolled it up and acted like, oh yeah, what's going on? You know?
right.
Yeah, but I don't remember exactly what that was all about. But you brought up feeling sympathetic for the Beast. That's a Mace Windu thing because Mace, he stood up for the rights of the Zillo Beast and said, "Hey, we shouldn't be killing this thing. We should, try to capture it." And so they did, and then Palpatine took control of it and decided
I'll take it from here.
Conduct military. Yeah, right. It was sort of like that.
Well done,
Delivery. Where do I sign for this? Do I sign somewhere? How does this work? Just go off. Yeah. What do you want? A tip? Here you go. Here's a couple bucks. All right.
I mentioned King Kong. We've got this shot here of the Zillo Beast up on that tower. And
yes.
it was very King Kong.
Yeah, for sure. And King Kong seems kind of semi-sentient himself.
Yeah,
he had a crush on Fay Ray, It seemed like he was
Who wouldn't?
tooling around with those. Yeah. King Kong, semi-sentient. Chew on him for a while.
There were some really cool visuals in this episode. I love this shot of the. I don't know what what would this be called here? This was on the Star Destroyer that was firing at the Zillo Beast, but yeah, it looked very Death Star proton cannon or something like that, some sort of proton cannon. It was very Death Star-y. And speaking of the Death Star, I mean, you got to assume by now in the timeline that the Death Star is already being worked on. It's already under construction at this point. But Tech talks about how the Zillo Beast's anatomy could be used to create some sort of weapon. It consumes energy. It's able to blast out energy. And so I started thinking, is this, do we ever see the result of this science in Star Wars, this technology? The Death Star is powered by kyber crystals, but the way that the weapon harnesses the power of the kyber crystal and is able to then, expel it out with such force, that could be maybe Zillo Beast anatomy.
Maybe.
Curtis is saying ion cannon. Thanks, Curtis. Yeah.
I don't think that was an ion cannon, was it? No, I can't. They don't look like that. When they shoot those, it's more like, those are more like bursts. And they shoot them and they hit the Star Destroyer, and the Star Destroyer turns into a ship that doesn't function anymore. I don't think so. That was more like a beam, like an energy beam. So yeah, whatever. That's real. Right. That's really down in the weeds. Super nerd.
I'm sure there's a guidebook somewhere for all of that.
Yeah, stuff. Right. Do we really want to spend our time? I mean, it's almost embarrassing. But so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it was assumed that the armor of the Zillo Beast could be used, and I always thought it as more as like personal armor that soldiers would wear. Like maybe they could make stormtrooper uniforms out of Zillo Beast hide or something.
Okay.
But we've seen that's obviously not the case. I mean, stormtroopers, they're I
don't think they're wearing no Zillo Beast scales in that in that armor.
That gear they wear is eggshell white because it has the fragility of an eggshell. Very easy to blast through. Jason, somebody wants to know, what part of the Zillo Beast anatomy are you referring to? Ben Bamboo wants to know.
I tell you what, I don't know. I'm looking at this photo here. What can I tell you? I think it's what I believe it is its ability to consume energy and then expel it out. That's what I think it is. Are they getting dirty? Is that what they want to do? They want to bring this conversation down into the gutter. Oh, I'm hip to that. Know what you're all about, you guys. Come on.
Anytime one man says to another man the word anatomy, there's a dirty joke involved.
We all turn into 8th graders at that point.
Either there's a dirty joke involved or you're at the doctor's office.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. No doubt. Hey, we got some super chats in, so let's check in with those. Here's Calvin. Calvin says, Imperials hunting Omega and a bad breakup from Sid are exactly what this season needs to spice it up. I agree. I just kind of wish that this would have happened around episode 3 or 4 of this season, because I have a feeling if this continues to heat up, Mac, we're probably going to be, at the end of these this run, this season, like wishing that there were more episodes, because it's been wait. No, I mean, if they've been waiting so long to heat it up. That's what I'm saying.
This series might be better well served if they could just find a solid story arc that can carry it throughout the season. So we have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And as fans, we're not watching and saying, oh, this is meandering. Oh, this is playing to a kiddie crowd. I
Right.
mean, that's not what we want to do with Star Wars animation of this level.
No.
Star Wars animation that's making such heavy contributions to the mythology and timeline, establishing the Empire throughout the Dark Ages. That's pretty important stuff. So we don't want kiddie here. Obviously, we want the family appeal, but we can't have Star Wars being dumbed down with filler episode after filler episode, and we don't want meandering. Bad Batch has been meandering a little bit. We need some evolution in their story.
Yeah. How about this for dark? This is, I thought, about as dark as the episode got. All of those witnesses.
Yes.
that the only mistake they made was looking over their balconies and seeing a gigantic Zillo beast in their front yard.
Yeah.
And they're being loaded up on ships by these Republic commandos, never to be seen or heard from again. Men, women, children, all of the above. That was pretty sinister.
Gathering up the locals just because they saw the Zillo beast. Man, that was scary and gave me chills. And Clone Commander Scorch was walking with Dr. Hemlock at the end, and he said the locals have been detained and will be dealt with.
And will be dealt with.
That was Scorch. That was totally Scorch. You see, he's got the same colors and stuff.
Oh, there he is.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there he was at the end. You know, cruising
Oh, that
along
was
with
Scorch. You know, I had thought that Scorch was the poor guy at the beginning that was, the last one left on the ship before the Zillo beast got him. That was a great intro.
Hey, that's me.
Oh,
They're talking about me, Swank. Hey, I got a fan. Yeah, I got a fan. I'm going to tell my mom.
Rebel
She'll be
Force
so
Radio
proud.
Action Figure Theater. That's what we're there for. You say, why do you
Scorch.
collect all those toys? Well, this is why. This is why we collect the toys. Yeah, so they weren't real good to the people that witnessed the Zillo beast. Some other really great visuals was when they were loading the Zillo beast up into the Star Destroyer with the claw. You have been chosen. And some of this just kind of had like Close Encounters vibes to me,
Yeah. A lot of people were getting Alien vibes from it as well.
Oh, for
Scott's
sure.
Alien.
In the dark, yeah.
Yeah. When they arrive on the ship and scratch marks on the walls. I was thinking to myself, Rathtars? Was not expecting the Zillo beast to come back. But
Don't tell me you're
that was
carrying
my-
Rathtars.
yeah, that was my first I was just really thinking Rathtars. I don't know why. I would love to see Rathtars appear in animation. Think of what you can do with those crazy guys. Speaking of animation, what a great opening shot of this science vessel or the Transport 904 is what they call it. Not exactly one of the most glamorous names given to a Star Wars vessel, Transport 904. The ship transferring the asset. So again, now I'm thinking, oh my God, they got Baby Yoda. Because, of course, everyone referred to Baby Yoda as the asset in season 1 of Mandalorian. And as soon as Dr. Hemlock brought up the asset, I was like, hey, we got some Baby Yoda crossover coming our way. But no, different asset, Zillo Beast. So
Right.
wait,
But you're right
I
that
think-
Baby Yoda could be on one of those vessels.
Well, I think asset is the key word here. Asset,
Oh.
meaning test subjects for the Emperor's master plan for cloning.
Do
when
we
we
ever
hear the
hear
word
Baby Yoda
asset-
being referred to as an asset?
Oh
in
my God,
Mando?
yes,
Yeah,
by
the
Werner
asset,
Herzog,
right.
constantly.
Yes.
Werner Herzog must have done it 10 times.
Wow.
Where is the asset? Bring me the asset.
Yes.
Dude,
That's awesome. I did not put that together, but you're 1,000% right. It's connecting. Yeah.
Same
connecting
terminology.
Baby Yoda, same terms. Yeah.
Same terminology for subject matter serving a similar purpose to the Empire. And it's all part of this Emperor's master plan for cloning.
The
Just
Emperor's
ask
Groove.
just ask that Hobbit from episode 9. Cloning. Secrets only the Sith knew.
Salvi Crum is back with us tonight. Thank you very much, Sal. Back to thinking Omega is force sensitive. Nala Se tells Hemlock She knows what the Emperor wants, i.e. to make Force-sensitive clones like Snoke. I don't know that he wants Snoke, but I get what you're saying. And she won't help. Makes me think she's already created a Force-sensitive clone.
Omega.
Well,
yeah, that's interesting. Could you put that text back up there that we just read? Because I thought that was some that was triggering some interesting thoughts for me, but I sort of
here we
need to
go.
see
Got
it
it back
again.
up here.
Okay, to make Force-sensitive clone like Snoke. And you said, I don't think that's what the Emperor wants. And that then brings back that other line of dialogue from this episode of Bad Batch, where it's Lama Su saying, you have this technology, but yet you don't have the know-how to make it work.
You've got the resources.
And that's why I think they can only get as far as Snoke. And I think Snoke is he's a great achievement for cloning. I mean, he does all kind of stuff, you know.
Right.
He has Force abilities, but he's ugly as sin.
Right.
He's a tall drink of water, though.
And he's got some great fashion sense. I mean, the gold lame robe, those slippers. I mean, come on. The ring.
Yeah.
He's like the Liberace of Star Wars.
Very much Liberace. Yes. I wonder if he also has a lot of the same habits and what that Liberace had, but that's a whole different thing. Now, the thing about Snoke, though, is he has a face of melted mozzarella cheese, which I think is they could do better.
Yeah.
You know, sure he could shoot lightning bolts out of his fingertips and use the Force to smash your face down on the deck of a Star Destroyer, and he's not even in the room with you. That's pretty powerful stuff, I think.
And I've heard people say, well, he might not have always looked like that. Maybe he's been through some stuff. No, because we see the other Snokes in the pickle jars in Rise of Skywalker, and it's as good as it gets, man. That's what he looked like from the day he hatched out of the amber fluid.
End of debate. We really need Robot Chicken to give us their take on this. Palpatine.
Well, can't you do any better? Well, I guess that's what we're stuck with, and I don't know. Looks like Pizza the Hut, kind of, with the melted mozzarella cheese face. Yeah.
You're delicious. We got the number up here on the screen, 708-866-1737. We already have a couple in the queue, but please give us a call, 708-866-1737. If you're within the sound of our voices during this live stream, we would love to hear from you. Saw some folks in the chat asking what the number is. So there's the number. Give us a ring. Let's jump to the phones here. We'll take our first call. We have a Patreon member, not this Blake, another Blake from Florida. Blake, you're on with Rebel Force Radio and the Bad Batch After Show. Hello, Blake from Florida.
Hey, guys. Chut-chut. What's going on?
Chut-chut. We're talking Bad Batch.
Yeah, man. So what I wanted to ask you guys is, so ever since The Rise of Skywalker came out, we've had a couple of years of, we got it in The Mandalorian and now Bad Batch, them pitching on this whole, cloning thing that Dameron's been doing to kind of, I don't want to say justify, but kind of flesh out what they did with the sequels. And, it's been a couple of years. I'm kind of at the point where I'm looking at everything they're telling me, and I'm just like, I really don't care about justifying the sequels. I'm more interested in just this time period in general.
Mm-hmm.
It was just my age, too. I'm going to be 34 this year, and, I grew up with a lot of the expanding universe stuff in the 90s and early 2000s. So I really want to get you guys' viewpoint. Heart to heart, is anything they're doing to show what happened in the sequels really vibing with you guys, or you guys just more interested in just hearing about more just this time period and not really taking the sequels into consideration when you're watching this stuff?
That's a good question.
I think.
Appreciate it,
I think
Blake.
you have to take the sequels into consideration. And by the way, if you were raised on EU from the 90s and 2000s, where do you get off having such high standards? Okay, I read that stuff too, and it wasn't exactly home run after home run. So you have to learn a little patience.
Yeah.
Where is he? Is he gone?
I dropped him.
Oh, well, don't do that. Let him stay on so we can have a little back and forth, a little conversation with him. But I think that it would benefit everyone if there could be a little more substance applied to the sequel trilogy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you have a personal preference that you don't like the sequel trilogy, well, I mean, I think that you should be welcoming of an opportunity to fix the mess. I mean, we can all agree it's kind of a mess. And there needs to be steps taken to fill up some of the holes in the plot and have it make some kind of sense. Because as far as the movie trilogy itself, it needs help. It really does. It needs an oxygen tank, maybe an IV pumping fluids into it or something, because it needs some help. And so I welcome it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. We've seen many times when they go back to things that we're familiar with and we really like. Think about the anticipation for Kenobi. Well, I know a lot of fans walked away from that feeling a little down and out. And it's really hard to take those classic stories and to keep adding on to them. I think a good idea would be make a Darth Vader movie of him being Darth Vader and carrying on his day and wreaking havoc throughout the universe. Sort of like, a Friday the 13th take on Star Wars, maybe, but with substance. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think
Vader
that would be
slasher
great.
flick, huh?
Yeah. Why not? Horror films are very popular at the box office these days. It's one of the few genres that's actually making money outside of the Marvel universe and all the franchise. So horror films, crossover. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's make Vader the scariest of scary. Why not? The opportunity is there. But there's always, tiptoeing around the mythology and tiptoeing around the continuity and things like that. And so, see, that presents a whole different can of worms. So I think it's a good idea to take the thing that needs the most help and help it. And as far as Star Wars goes, that's the sequel trilogy, my friend.
All right, let's see what else we got here. Super chats. Thank you, Chuck. Chuck just says, just sending us a little super chat here. No message, but we have Scott. Scott says, Sid knows too much. Time to have her whacked. I don't think that's really the way the guys roll, but, I can see that. I mean, she is going to be a liability. Tech seems to think that they can placate her, that they can negotiate with her. I don't think so. I don't think they can. I think that she's always going to hold this over their heads because they're never even Steven. No matter what they do for her or don't do for her, Sid has always got the upper hand.
Not really. I mean, they bailed her out when she ran into that problem earlier in the season.
But they come groveling every week for another mission.
Well, it almost seems like they're kind of in this this terrible cycle they can't get out of. And what happened to Wanda Sykes? Was she's one and done? I was looking
what did happen
for
to
some more
Wanda?
Sykes. But who cares? I mean, what she added to the mythology is minimal at best.
Well, remember, there was that guy Romar. Romar, he warned the Bad Batch
That's the one.
about Sid. Yeah.
But that's the guy who was gonna smack down on Sid pretty hard if it wasn't for the Bad Batch saving her butt. And so I think our last, I think Scott from St. Louis here on the super chat, I think he might be onto something because Tech mentioned, she's a liability hanging out with all these people of questionable integrity. I think what's his exact words. Questionable integrity.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so it seems like, and she doesn't play fair. So it only seems like a matter of time before she'll get hers.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think karma will bite her.
They're kind of in a similar situation as Crosshair. Crosshair keeps doing the bidding of the Empire time and time again, and it's not getting him anywhere. You can see the last time we saw him sort of a look of resignation, and same with Bad Batch. They're not getting anywhere with Sid, and they're doing mission after mission and risking their lives. And as we talked about before, up until last week's show, they've been unsuccessful. None of the treasure is paid off. They haven't been able to secure it. So it's not been lucrative. Chuck says Sid is going to sell the Bad Batch out to Hemlock. And that could be the way this goes. That could be the way this goes. Because if
Hemlock is
the relationship is fractured, yeah.
If Hemlock is the type of guy who gets down and dirty and deals with underworld criminals like Sid, but I think you're on the right track, Chuck. I think Sid is going to sell out the Bad Batch to the Empire.
Hey,
maybe not necessarily Hemlock, but
Hemlock has half of his people out looking for that ship that got away, which we know is the Bad Batch, and he's going to have the other half looking for this clone. So everybody's going to be looking for the Bad Batch.
You're right about that. The target on their back
huge
tripled during this episode. They already had a big target on their backs to begin with.
Yeah,
but we do get hints that they might reunite with Rex and Echo soon, and carry on with those guys. So obviously, strength in numbers, and we need to see some like big Bad Batch adventure team up where they get together with at least those two guys. You know, maybe throw a Cut LaQuaine in the mix, but he seems firmly retired. He's a family man. Living his life off the radar, off the grid.
Yeah. This was the first time that we've seen since Echo left that something seemed to rise to, at least in Hunter's mind, to the level of, we should let Rex and Echo know about this because it's big. And Tech tells him, he tells Hunter, I think this is bigger than we ever dreamed. So Tech knows that they uncovered at least the beginnings of a pretty big plot. And it's interesting the way this is all working out when you look at Palpatine's plan post Return of the Jedi, is we're getting glimpses of it in Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and in of course in the Bad Batch. It's this, we're all seeing these little parts of this big elephant that is ultimately Palpatine. We see it in the sequel trilogy, of course, but we don't have that full view of it yet. We see pieces and parts of it, but we don't have the full scope, which is really what makes this stuff worth talking about week after week.
Right. And why you shouldn't sleep on the Bad Batch.
Definitely.
Because it's applying very important elements to the story, and you just don't want to be sitting on the sidelines when this is all going on.
Right. All right.
You don't want to be like those people who didn't watch the Bad Batch or didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett, and now Mandalorian season 3 has started. And they're so confused. Like, I care.
I talked to a guy at the day job today, and he just started watching the Clone Wars. He's like, I feel like I've missed out on a lot of stuff. I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
you
have.
did 13 years ago.
We've been screaming from the top of the mountains about this stuff, and now you're just catching on. Well, you know what? Welcome. I'm glad he's here, and I'm glad he's going to because he's got some good times ahead of him. That I told him,
I said, I'm kind of jealous of you, actually, because you got a lot of really fun Star Wars to watch.
All right,
it's time, baby, for Blake's Take. Hey, Blake. Chut, my man. How are you?
Chut.
I'm doing good.
Good. All right. Well, what do you think? This episode had a lot in it. Pretty straightforward stuff, but once you start picking at the surface, you find some really compelling things to talk about. What'd you walk away with?
All right. So I know you guys have covered some of this in the show. Like you've covered pieces of it, but not what I'm gonna say.
Oh,
so
all right.
Okay. All right. Lay it on us, Blake. Lay it on. He thinks we just scratched the surface. He's gonna bring some real depth to the conversation.
Some nuance.
So yeah. Strap in. It's time for Blake's Take. Take it away, Blake.
All right. So earlier, you guys were talking about how the Zillo Beast was going after Palpatine, probably because of his electric force powers, where he can shoot electricity out of his hand.
I was positing that as an idea.
It feeds on it.
Wait, which way are you? This way.
Right here.
Maybe since in the Rise of Skywalker, there's a clone of Emperor Palpatine, so he tries to clone himself with his Sith powers, but the clones can't hold it. That's why they just die really fast.
Mhm.
Right.
They grow way too old.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe with the Zillo Beast, he can get it to control, harness the power.
Wait a minute. Hold on,
until-
Blake.
to
Blake,
give
are
it
you
to it.
are you suggesting that Palpatine is cloning a Zillo Beast because it's the only creature powerful enough to house his dark energy?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know that I
But-
would want to come back as a big lizard, but I don't
Well,
think
I don't think
Palpatine really
that's-
cares.
I don't think Palpatine's looking to come back as a baby Yoda either. I think they're taking they're extracting the blood of baby Yoda and the Zillo Beast
Oh,
to
right.
see if it's compatible with a Palpatine clone. I think that's what's
Good
going
point.
on.
Can
It's-
they
it's more
extract
about
that ability of the Zillo Beast? Right.
it's more about transfusions than it is actually inhabiting the body
Right.
of the subject. Except in the case of Rey, Palpatine was definitely willing to play for the other team at that point. You know
He
what I
didn't
mean?
care. Right. He didn't care.
No,
He didn't care.
No.
As long as he
Yeah.
could live forever. Blake, I
Right,
love that
right.
idea, dude. That's a really, really cool thought.
Thanks. But so I'm just gonna go back real quick to that.
Mhm. Okay.
So, how you guys saying that he might not want to become a baby, because the clones, probably because of his force-sensitive powers, it will immediately put him to where he last was, to the age he was. This way, he won't be a little baby. He'll have all the powers and stuff. So
Right on.
that's how.
Wait.
Yes,
Why wouldn't he have to be a baby?
I'll explain to you. Well, I
Because
mean, he wouldn't be. Go ahead, Blake. You explain to the swankster.
All right. So with the force-sensitive powers, the
Mhm.
Sith powers,
Mhm.
the reason why it could make him grow older with those powers, since they're from his past body, the powers he had, whenever he puts them into his clone, it could make that one grow
I see.
older.
Oh, right. Because this is not just a typical cloning situation. He's putting his essence, his spirit into this whatever this body is. I gotcha. Okay, I'm down with it. I hear you.
The way it worked in the Dark Empire comic books, which The Rise of Skywalker took a lot of inspiration from, was that Palpatine was able to clone himself, except when he inhabited the clones they would age super rapidly because they weren't able to contain the evil. The flesh disintegrated and the clones started to resemble old Palpatine rapidly as soon as he inhabited them. And I think that's an element that was still in place in The Rise of Skywalker, except never actually explained. But I know they took a lot of inspiration from Dark Empire. So, Blake, I don't know if you've ever read that comic. It was released a couple of decades before you were born, but check it out. It's called Dark Empire from Dark Horse Comics, and you can find it online or anywhere. And it sort of sets the stage for the type of theories you're coming up with right now.
I think Uncle Mac is giving you some homework, Blake.
For sure.
I love reading the comics about the Sith, Darth Vader comics.
Yeah.
Any Star Wars comics are always really good.
Well,
Yeah. Check out Dark Empire. You'll thank me. It's
All right.
great. Oh,
Blake, we
yes,
always love hearing
Dark
from you,
Empire.
buddy. You laid some great stuff on us. Thanks for always being here for us, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and enjoy those headphones. You should be getting them, in a few weeks, a month or so. So let us know how you like them. Okay, we gave you some headphones, Mandalorian
All right.
Special Edition headphones from Logitech. They look amazing. I have mine right here. Look at them.
Did you say like
They're so cool?
a month?
They're so
it would
cool,
take to get these out? What are we in
Well,
19?
well, maybe not that long. No, you're
1980?
right, Jason. They'll probably
Allow
get them
4 to
there
6
pretty
weeks
quick.
for delivery.
Hey, you know, what do you want from me, Swank? But I'm telling you, these are great headphones. You're really
They
going
are
to
great.
enjoy them.
Yeah. They are beauties. They are beauties. All right. We've got more callers on the line. Wow. We got a pretty good lit up switchboard for the Bad Batch after show. Let's make sure that we get all of our Patreons on. Oh, we got Hanky. Some Hanky Panky from Kansas. Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporter. How you doing, Hanky?
He's heard that before.
I know.
Hey, pretty good.
Not
How
from
about
me,
you
though.
guys?
Doing all right. Doing all right. It's a busy week here in Star Wars land.
Hey, thanks. Oh yeah, I love it. I love it so much. Hey, thanks for taking my call, though.
Of course.
So I just had a kind of an idea, or kind of thinking of what the next episode will possibly be about. I was looking at the schedule of the episodes, and the next one's called The Outpost. So I'm kind of hoping that we go back and see some more of the Zillo Beast, and I kind of like what I think it was Jimmy who said that I'm hoping for a team up, maybe that Echo and Rex team up with the Bad Batch, and I don't know. I'd like them to rescue the Zillo Beast or something, because I don't really want him to be in captivity with the Empire too long.
I don't know. I think everybody's better off having the Zillo Beast right where he is right now, and that's in a big tank with a bunch of clone commanders keeping an eye on it. That's what that's where I think the Zillo Beast should be. There's no way to contain that force of nature, but I like what you're saying. A team up with Rex, a reunion with Rex and Echo, and then that will open the door to much bigger things, because Rex and Echo, they're on the battlefront there, working with the clone troopers who are getting the shaft from the Empire. All of a sudden, a lot of clone troopers are finding themselves out of work. And that's because stormtroopers are on the scene. We haven't seen this play out yet in the Bad Batch, but I bet we will in some upcoming episodes. Again, I still am not privy to any information about what's going to be happening on the Clone Wars. I know a bunch
Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. See, that's good that I call it Clone Wars, though, because this show is an extension of the Clone Wars, and that is the high point of Star Wars animation, and that cannot be debated. And so the Clone Wars lead into the Bad Batch, and I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the season. I know that some media members were privy to the first 14 of 16 episodes before the season even aired. So a lot of people out there have spoilers on their brain, but I'm really relieved. I've been able to navigate around all of that stuff, and I have no idea what's happening in the Bad Batch season 2 from this point forward. And so I think there were some really good media embargoes. I don't know how they do it, but I just thought it was really ridiculous that anyone was seeing almost the entire season before it even aired. That takes a little wind out of my sails.
Yeah,
you know,
it bothered me a lot too.
Yeah,
but I have remained spoiler free. But I also wasn't going around looking. I wasn't going around looking. And there had to have been, I would assume, a series of embargo dates on spoiler reviews. I'm hoping.
I don't know. When I first got wind of this, I did, look around to confirm that some people were given access to just about the entire season, and I was seeing complete season reviews out there. I don't know how specific they went, because I didn't look at them, and I don't really look at any kind of nerd media websites anyway, so I'm largely safe. I only see stuff from trade magazines like The Hollywood Reporter and Variety, and like maybe every once in a while a Collider interview or some article will slip through, but I see interviews.
Yeah,
that's something I always search for.
Well, there was a time, when mainstream media outlets wasn't really covering Star Wars at all. Now, if you just open up a newsreader, you're right. The trades cover it. It's big enough now. Yeah, the trades weren't talking Clone Wars, back in 2000.
Nobody was.
Right.
We were, and that was it.
We were. Right.
There weren't even other podcasts out there. Maybe there were a couple others. I remember there was one guy, a Canadian guy. He was really nice. I can't remember his name. He had a Clone Wars podcast, but I don't really remember any others back in the day.
Yeah, I know.
Back in the day when there was a handful of Star Wars podcasts to begin with. And me and Swank would walk in a room and they go, "Oh, the podcast guys are here."
You know what?
Nowadays,
I didn't tell you that.
the
I
podcast
didn't.
guys are here.
I didn't tell you the best part. I told you about the guy in the day job today in the lunchroom. It's not somebody I know well, and he was talking about Clone Wars, and he's like, "Well, I realized that I really missed out on a lot." And he said, "Yeah, I was listening to this Star Wars podcast, and they were talking about Clone Wars." No, it wasn't us. It wasn't us. But the irony of him standing there telling me this, I just played dumb. I don't throw my weight around or anything like that. I just played dumb. I said, "Oh, really?" I said, "You listen to a Star Wars podcast? What Star Wars podcast was?" I won't mention it here. I won't give him the plug. But he dropped it. I had actually never heard of it before. And I said, "Oh, interesting. I said, "Well, that's good. If they're encouraging you to watch Clone Wars, that's a good thing." Yeah.
Yes. Different.
Wish
strokes for
everybody
different
well.
folks.
Marty from Georgia, Patreon. You're on with Rebel Force Radio. Hello, Marty.
Hello there, guys. Thanks for having me back on. Long time no talk.
Yeah, right. Well, when we're doing 2 of these a week, it's going to happen. But great to hear from you again.
Yep. One thing I wanted to comment, and I was talking to Tyler, this is kind of my dark conspiracy theory about the clones.
Okay.
I mean, the only people you see guarding the Zillo Beast are clone troopers, right? Just clone commanders. That way, if
right.
So if that thing gets loose, there's no stormtrooper casualties. There's no, normal casualties. It's killing off clones, basically. And
wow.
I mean, and then if you look at the
see, I was looking at it differently, Marty. I was looking at it
that,
the exact opposite way from you, Marty. I was thinking, wow, this is like very sensitive, top secret stuff. You have to have clone commandos there. They're the only ones who can be trusted. But you're saying, give the clones the crappiest, most dangerous jobs there are, because if they get wiped out, then that's one less clone to worry about and feed and give lodging to.
Yeah, I think it's a double one with that one, because they're the most advanced clone fighters that they have. But if that thing gets loose and eats them, it's no big deal. And then if you look at them rounding up the civilians, that further proves Palpatine's point. They can give the clones a scapegoat of saying, "Look at what the terrible things they're doing." All that. All that stuff too. I just see the theme this season of pushing the clones to the side, and it's something I'm noticing. And like I told you guys, big Clone Wars fan, so watching the clones get treated that way is tough, but it's just further building up to when's that Stormtrooper clone trooper battle going to happen. So that's all I got, guys. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for hosting this.
That's all you got, Marty. That was great. Are you kidding me? I love the whole, it's so nefarious. It's so Machiavellian to be setting these guys up that way to eventually just stab them in the back,
Yeah.
Look what these
just having them do all the dirty work. Yeah.
They're rounding up and as Scorch says, that the locals have been detained and will be dealt with.
Yeah.
It sounds like the clone commandos themselves are the ones who are going to be lining them up and, open fire. Oh, now they're not going to show that. I don't think they'll show that on this show.
I don't, probably not on an animated
a firing squad on Star Wars. Yikes. But, that's great, Marty, man. I just love that sort of, like I said, it's so Machiavellian. The Emperor always pulling the puppet strings and controlling everything, and nobody even knows it.
And
by the time they figure it out, it's too late.
4D chess, as they say. He's playing it. He's
awesomeness.
He's always a step ahead. We got another Patreon supporter. We have Dale from Colorado. Hey, Dale.
Hey, Chet, and howdy from Denver, guys.
Howdy.
So I'm not sure if it's just semantics or if I'm reading too much into the line, but when Tech is doing his typical digging through the computer thing, he delivers this line to Hunter. He says, the creature is the same species that attacked Coruscant during the war, like war singular. So at this time, still in universe, the conflict during the prequels is still not called the Clone Wars like we see during the OT. So it's still just Clone War, Great Clone War, which makes me think we've got some great story coming up in this series, because by the time we get to Solo and Andor, the clones are gone from the universe. So something's going to go down these next 5 episodes here. That's got to be pretty exciting TV to watch.
Well, I will say this: Dave Filoni is definitely a student of history. He loves American history, world history, and I'm sure for a guy like Dave, and I know Dave's not at the helm of the day-to-day of the Bad Batch, but I do think he still carries a lot of influence, and they're still carrying out a lot of his original thinking with this series and these characters. It would not surprise me. We have Yoda talking about begun, the Clone War has. We have, you point out, Dale, that they refer to it as the war. You got World War I and World War II happened within like 30 years of each other. It wasn't that long, when you start getting, north of 45, you realize that 30 years doesn't seem that long ago. And so for there to be a follow-up to the first Clone War and have a second Clone War that pits conscripted troops against, and the irony, Jim, you were talking about it being Machiavellian. If Palpatine does do a double cross on the clones and starts pitting, portraying them to the citizens of the galaxy as they're the ones that are doing all these things that you hate. We've got these stormtroopers. They're of you. They're coming from your ranks. They're going to come in and they're going to save us from the scourge of these clone troopers that betrayed us, just like the Jedi. I mean, the irony of that is crazy. The more and more we talk about this idea of a second Clone War of the stormtroopers versus clone troopers, the more I'm going to be disappointed if we don't get it, because it just is so good, and it does retcon Clone Wars really, really nicely. Real nicely.
Yeah, the stage is set. It's all there. The foundation has been built. It's amazing that you can take an element such as the transition between clone trooper and stormtrooper and essentially build a whole story around it and create an entire series to fuel it. It's because it's a notion that we never considered until, probably until about Star Wars Rebels came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
We always thought clone troopers just naturally evolved into stormtroopers. They wear the white plastic armor. They should, right. They have similar habits and tastes. It sure seems like they're the same, but then to find out they're not, and then to have a series and a whole story developed up around the nefarious way that they were wiped off the military for the Empire. This is outstanding stuff, man. And think of all the other weird things in Star Wars history that can be exploited for an entire series. Just little nuggets along the timeline. You can just latch onto them and say, you know what, we can build a whole story around this.
If the Bad Batch isn't the vehicle to if this were to happen, like a second Clone War 2. Yeah. If the Bad Batch isn't the right vehicle to tell that story, there could be a spin-off series. There could be another series that would just be dedicated and devoted to that. So, we're not beholden to this having to, revolve around the Bad Batch. Just like this didn't have to revolve around the Clone Wars. It became its own thing.
Or the Bad Batch can morph into a whole new series, which would be a revival of the Clone Wars. And then fans would be all wringing their hands like, oh, but how would the people who didn't watch Bad Batch know what's going on? Oh, my God.
They'll be so confused. Oh, no.
Go watch Book of Boba Fett and shut up.
All right, Megan O'Donnell says, sends a super chat saying, hey, doing family stuff, but wanted to say hi and go Star Wars. Thanks, Megan. It's good. Put family first, right? Family first, then Star Wars. We'll be here when you're done with that stuff. Aiden says, love the ep, but one thing I'm wondering and want to see is where the heck is Crosshair? Been ready to see him again. As always, thanks for the show. Aiden, I was thinking about Crosshair too this week. Thinking, I'd like to see him, check in with him again.
Yeah,
he gave us
he's
one
due
of the
for a
best
return.
episodes of the season.
He's due for a return for sure.
sure.
And I think like all these little elements that were happening throughout the season, I think we're going to eventually see them all come together for a season finale. And I mean, that's how good storytelling is done. So it's a 50-50 shot. We'll get it from Lucasfilm.
Right. Yes. For sure. All right. We got
Says
some more.
one of the biggest Star Wars fans in the universe.
We got Chuck from Oregon. Chuck, also a Patreon supporter. Great cause tonight. Keeping us busy. Keeping Tyler Page busy. Hey, Chuck, how are you?
Doing good, boys. Chut, chut.
Chut, chut.
Chuck, Chuck. Chuck, Chuck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's me, Chuck from Oregon, baby. But just calling in, I was in the super chats about Sid giving them up to Hemlock.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about this. I couldn't go much farther in the super chat with it, but since Hemlock now knows about Omega and they know she's out there, what if, because you can definitely tell they're trying to sever ties with Sid. And I have a feeling it's going to get messy and it's going to come down to it trickling down to somehow Hemlock is going to get information about Sid and she's going to give up their whereabouts after they sour their relationship with her.
I think that she is the weakest link in the chain, obviously, in terms of the Bad Batch, what security they have for who knows of them, who's been working with them. I mean, all they need is a description of these guys. They're going to be able to trace them to Sid. I mean, think about the loose ends out there. We just talked about a couple of them. You got that guy, Romar. You've got Fee Genoa, the Wanda Sykes character. You got Rampart. Now, here's a thought.
Exactly.
Rampart has information that the Bad Batch are still alive. Might he use that information to free himself? Right. If he hears that there's an interest in the Bad Batch, might he say, hey, you release me, just like Lama Su said, you give me my freedom, I'll tell you what you need to know. That could be a return or mark a return for Rampart. Yeah.
And then watch them flip it on Rampart, being that he knows too much too, and he ends up getting backstabbed in the end anyway.
Well, they all turn on each other. That's what it seems like. This is a really, and we saw it too with Andor, a real dysfunctional group of people all vying for power and jockeying for position. It would be a really, and I'm sure it's, very similar to what, and I've seen enough, World War II documentaries to know that, the inner circle of the Nazis and those surrounding Hitler, it was all, anytime you have a dictator, the dictator might be horrible, but the people around him are even worse because they're enabling it. They're fighting with each other. They're always trying to get to be, the right-hand man. So yeah, it's
stepping on faces to get to the top.
That's right, man. That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck. Appreciate the call and your support on Patreon. Really appreciate it. Good thoughts. That's for sure. I think we got another Patreon. Here's our buddy. We haven't talked to him in a while. Eric from Phoenix on the line. Patreon. Say hello to the people.
Chut, chut, guys.
Chut, chut, my man. It's been a while.
Chut, Eric from Phoenix. Well, it's been a while for you. Me and Eric from Phoenix been hosting RFR Q&As.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm up
RFR
to speed
Q&A.
with all things Eric from Phoenix. Yeah.
Well, I haven't. So, Eric, what's on your mind tonight, buddy?
Yeah, I got two things, and it first of all, just say it's great to be able to catch a live show and be in the chat with Peter and Jeff and everybody. It's just such a good time.
Good folks. That's
Chatting
for
with
sure.
everybody, trying to listen to you guys at the same time. But I have two things tonight.
Mhm.
First thing is more of just a visual cue that I got, and once again, it could just be me. A lot of folks talked about alien vibes, and I totally get that and agree with it. But when the Bad Batch came in to land on the planet tonight, there were all pine trees, and I got definite ET vibes with the ship. Even the way the ship panned from right to left when it came into land, the lights were red, kind of like when ET ship lands. And then you really only hear nature sounds like frogs and birds and crickets and things like that, which I remember from the ET show too. So once again, was it there intentionally? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but there was a little bit of a visual that I got early on in the episode when they landed.
Cool.
So,
It's been
that's
so
one thing.
long since I saw ET that I can't relate, but I know what visuals you're talking about for sure.
I saw ET once. That was
Yeah.
when it was in the theater. One time. Well, no, I think I saw it a couple times in the theater, but I never saw it on home video. I think that's kind of weird. Just I want to point that out.
So ET comes out in what, 82 or was it 83? 82.
Yeah.
82.
I saw it in the
So
theater and I saw it at the drive-in.
That was it for you, huh? Were you running around collecting the trading cards and eating Reese's Pieces?
I was eating the candy. Yeah. But I wasn't collecting the cards or
I was
there were a
sitting-
lot of great movies coming out that summer.
There was
I think
a
I was
great
more of a
time, yeah.
I was more of a Superman 2 guy that summer. I think that was the big one that really spoke to me, Superman 2.
I remember.
But E.T. was there, E.T. was there. Indiana Jones. No, that was a little later.
I was sitting in my
Indiana
living
Jones.
room floor, surrounded by ET trading cards and color forms, playing with the ET color forms. Yeah, I was. I loved. I mean, let's see. I would have been 5 years old, and that is one of those movies that I have very vivid memories of seeing in the theater. It was tremendous. But I'm not. But I wasn't getting ET vibes. But I'll tell you what, Eric, if you were getting ET vibes, my stock is, my sense is that there were ET vibes to be had. Anything else you got on your mind for this week's episode?
Yes. So the next thing would be, and this is, I'm gonna steal Blake, the theory term from Blake here, and just use a theory for a second. So we know Boba Fett was supposed to have more stories to tell in the Clone Wars, which we never got.
Right.
And we know Boba Fett is a clone of Jango Fett, and we know Boba Fett, he's young at this point in time, but the timing would work. And obviously they're looking for the Bad Batch. They're now looking for Omega. The Empire can do it. Obviously Crosshair is going to be part of that, but I think it's a great opportunity. And maybe part of the reason there's overlap between Mandalorian and the Bad Batch is because Boba Fett's going to show up. He's going to be hired as one of the bounty hunters. There's probably a few others to try to find Omega. And I think it's an interesting opportunity for the folks on the show to do some character development with Boba Fett early on in his career. He finds an altered clone. Maybe that causes him to go soft, do something a little different than maybe what the Empire would want. And there's a little bit of a glint there for some of the things we see in the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, where maybe he's a redeemed character post-Sarlacc versus the efficient bounty hunter. So do I think it's 100% possible? No. But I think it would be an interesting opportunity to bring him back into the series at a very interesting time in his career.
I don't like to think of Boba Fett as having any sort of compassion until he went through the, life after death situation he did by escaping the Sarlacc and then spending time with the Tuscans. I think it was specifically that lizard he snorted that sent him off on some weird journey to find a stick. And I think that really messed him up and turned him into a different person. I don't think we'll see any foreshadowing for Boba Fett to become like a compassionate character or anything. I think he's really forged by the witnessing of his father's death and then living as an orphan for all those years he hooked up with some really unsavory characters during the Clone Wars, people like Aura Singh and Bosk and Dengar and Lats Ratzi or whatever that weirdo was. They remember Lats Ratzi? I don't think that was voiced by Seth Green's wife, Lats Ratzi.
Oh,
I
that's
remember
right.
that because like Seth was really keen. He told me this at one of the Star Wars celebrations that he was really keen on getting an action figure made of Lats Ratzi from the Clone Wars. She was sort of a Poison Ivy type bounty hunter that hung out with Embo and all of that crew that they met during that Seven Samurai episode of Clone Wars. So if you guys ever want to lobby Hasbro, I guess I should have said something about it back then when the show was still on the air, that Seth Green wants a bounty action figure of his wife. But I didn't. So let's try to get that happening now. Go hit the Twitters with the hashtags and let's start lobbying for a Lats Razzie action figure, because I feel like I dropped the ball on that one. See how I try to,
buddy.
I try to reconcile past, times throughout my history where I feel like I may have dropped the ball. I think I dropped the ball with that Seth Green request where he really wanted to see Lats Razzie.
He's Seth Green. He can. I mean, what are we going to do? Are
Well,
we going to have
the
more
platform.
influence than we do? Have a platform, but he's Seth Green,
and then also
he
he
can ring
has
up
to
the brand manager at Hasbro if he wants.
Yeah, well, maybe he should, but he probably has to watch his P's and Q's because he gets employed by Lucasfilm from time to time.
Oh, that's right. He can't be working, like that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right.
We need to do his dirty work for him.
What does he have to lose? I mean, they have a whole series of his sitting on the shelf, completed 40 episodes of Star Wars Detours. Nobody's seen a single episode yet. What's up with that? What's going on with that show where there's content in there that's so sensitive, Star Wars fans can't be exposed to it?
I have some ideas.
Okay. We'll talk about it off air.
Yeah, I have some ideas.
I can just tell by the tone of your voice. This is a conversation to be had off here.
Yes. Someone in the chat just said, I didn't hear about this, that Return of the Jedi is going to get a theatrical re-release. Maybe not a wide release, but looks like something maybe in the IMAX theaters, similar to what Avatar had, but Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos, they are, it hasn't been confirmed by Lucasfilm or Disney, but they are reporting that April 28th, 2023, we'll see a 40th anniversary re-release in the theaters of Return of the Jedi. I will be there. Believe me, I will be there. That hasn't happened since there's been no Star Wars back in theaters. Well, since the 3D release of Phantom Menace, that was the last time that we saw any kind of re-release. And then before that, it was the special editions. 97.
Well, they rolled Rogue One out a few times.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You just saw Rogue One not that long ago.
Yeah,
that's right.
A couple of times they've rolled Rogue One out. I would love to see Return of the Jedi in IMAX. The last time I saw a Jedi on a theater screen was at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood about 10 years ago, back in 2013, for the then 30th anniversary of the film. And that was a good crowd, too. I was sitting next to Logan. And who else was in our group? Sam Witwer, Topher Grace. Later, Mark Hamill was there. I didn't go to the later one. I was out in where was I for that? Oh, Santa Monica, sitting in a hot tub. living a fat life. But I went there during the day, and we had a great time seeing Empire on the big screen. I remember Sam Witwer being really enthusiastic about it. They were pumping up the crowd, and he was really clapping and very into it. And it was early in the morning too, which I know was a struggle for young Daniel Logan. But but no, that was a good time. Stanton was there, Steven Stanton and his whole crew. I mean, man, wow, what a good trip that was. And lots of guys I know from the 501st. That was a lot of fun. But that was the last time I saw Return of the Jedi on a big screen. And it might be coming back, huh?
Might be coming back end of April 2023. Yeah, I'll definitely be there. That is a nostalgia trip for me for sure.
Yeah.
We've gone through all of our Patreons. We can't get through all the calls tonight, guys. Very sorry. We're going to try to get through a couple more. We got some first-time callers. Let's check in with Dave from Boston. Hey, Dave, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, well, chut, guys.
Chut.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, I'm Jim. I'm a old original trilogy guy like you, but
that's good.
Well, that was funny listening last week. You guys seemed like you were a little harsh on the show, and I thought this week was great.
I feel like I think we're fair. I think that I would never say that we're harsh. I wouldn't like to think that we're harsh. I think we're fair. If there's an episode that doesn't, we've been watching a lot of Star Wars. We've been covering these series episode by episode. So, we tend to take it on an episode by episode basis. Did this really do it for us or didn't it? But overall, we're just enjoying the ride.
I think we like to illustrate what makes great Star Wars great. And we get real enthusiastic about it. And when the show, like The Bad Batch, which has all the potential in the world and tons of storylines that they could follow, when it starts meandering with the adventure of the week, A-Team style, that may have worked in 1980s television. But nowadays, I think fans, consumers of pop culture, we have different patience levels for the way that this stuff gets rolled out in the streaming age specifically. And I think there's very little tolerance for anything that could be considered filler. Now, on the other side of the coin, I like to spend as much time in this universe and as much time with these characters as possible. And sometimes you have to endure filler to be able to fill that quota. But I think we've been fair. We're not hating on the show. We're certainly not hoping that it fails to succeed.
I agree. One of the reasons I love enjoying you guys is you are fair, and it's not like this pig pile, everything's horrible, whatever else.
It's so exhausting, isn't it? Isn't that exhausting to listen to?
Oh, God.
Everything sucks.
Yeah, some people are insufferable, and they already have their opinions forged long before they consume any sort of show or content or movie or book or comic book or anything. You have to actually experience the stuff before you have an opinion on it. And I think a lot of these guys are writing the reviews before they even get a chance to sink their teeth into it because they feel personally attacked or put off or whatever. And so they have their own agendas they need to feed too. I think we're refreshingly free of that kind of crap here on Rebel Force Radio.
Well, the point that I wanted to get to was what I've really been enjoying about the show is how it kind of explores the casualties of war. And, what a tragedy what happened to the clones was. In fact, I was thinking about it when someone else was talking earlier about, we never see the stormtroopers ever take their helmets off. But all throughout Clone Wars and now through Bad Batch, we always see the clones take their helmets off, and the humanization in that. And then, even with the Bad Batch, like, Hunter, Wrecker, and all this, we're seeing them really, Omega bringing out this development of them that they're just more than soldiers. They are sentient people that can do more than just be soldiers. I find that very fascinating. And isn't was it Jennifer Corbett or the one of the showrunners? Isn't she a veteran?
Oh, you know that's interesting. I don't know much about her background, but if that is the case, then you know she it's very cool. She would probably have the opportunity to apply some of her own personal experiences into what the Bad Batch is going through.
Wait, David, you give this is the first time I think it's ever been brought up on this show that the stormtroopers, and we've obviously seen them a lot. We saw them through several seasons of Rebels. Never remove their helmets.
That's
the
right.
clone troopers,
except for Finn.
Finn, good point there too. The clone troopers, on the other hand, who are essentially all the same, right? Air quotes, they're all the same, but they're constantly taking off their helmets. They're exposing their individuality. They're exploring their individuality, all of this stuff. But yet you've got these stormtroopers that are the conscripted voluntary troops, and they're more, to use a term, you know, NPC, non-playable character types than the actual clone troopers. That's really a fascinating idea and a great observation.
That's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is that the clone troopers, they can take their helmets off and everything because they all pretty much look the same. So there's no fear or danger in revealing their identities. The stormtroopers on the other hand, are made up of citizens of the galaxy who serve as enforcers to carry out the Emperor's will. So it might be hard to go home and, you know, go to the park with your kids on the weekend when you're being spotted on the street.
That guy
down yeah, right. It's like, oh, there's a guy. He just beat up my great aunt in the middle of the street the other day.
That's a
now
really
he's at the park
good.
hanging out with his family. You have to
really
hide
good
your
point,
identity
too.
because they are individuals. Clones are not individuals. They're
Right.
all, you know, we see them grow individual personalities and characteristics and stuff, but at the end of the day, they're all the same.
But I do like what Dave.
Stormtroopers are different people.
I like both of these ideas. I like Dave's idea. I love the symbolism of the sycophantic stormtroopers really being truly the brainwashed automaton zombie following orders blindly.
Yes.
More so than the clones who are, you know, on paper and in theory more that way. I like both ideas. I like both ideas. Mac, I love yours as well, which is, you know, the practical. These guys are doing terrible things. They're following orders, but they're also rank and file people, you know, throughout the galaxy, and they're going to go home on leave, and they don't want to be seen right as the person that dragged grandma through the. Yeah, that's really good thoughts.
Oh, it's also interesting too with like the tie-in with the Mandalorian as well. With Din Djarin removed his helmet, so now he has to atone, and yet you have Bo-Katan. He's like, yeah, whatever. If you need to go to the pool, there it is. But you guys are like your own cult, and I don't want any part of it.
Right? Yeah, she makes no bones about it. In fact, she's quite proud of the fact that she's not, you know, mired by all of that dogma of the Children of the Watch. She sees that as a weakness, and yeah, no, it's great thoughts, David. Great call. Thank you very much. We've got time for one more.
One more, but I got to insert myself in here real quick for a very self-serving reason. And I'll be quick about this, but I wanted to plug my son's band, the Vaughn Building. They're playing the Cubby Bear in Wrigleyville in Chicago tonight. They go on stage in about 2 hours at 10:30 p.m. So if you're on the north side of the city and you want to go hear some really quality roots rock, blues, garage rock, covers, originals, the Vaughn Building will be on the stage at Cubby Bear from 10:30 till midnight. I think Tyler might try to make it there after we're done with the show because he's not too far away.
Tyler?
Yeah, I figure what the heck, I'd give the kids a plug. So if anybody's in the Chicago area, there's Tyler right there. Look at him. There he is. I got to say something about Tyler too. and this is just to tell you what a great guy Tyler Page
Oh,
is.
let's embarrass him. Let's do that.
Yeah, he purchased a pass for Star Wars Celebration London and decided that he couldn't make the trip. So instead of selling them and charging an upcharge for the tickets and everything, he decided just to give them away to some lucky Rebel Force Radio Patreon supporter. And it was great.
No
man.
way.
Did you get somebody to take you up on that, Tyler?
Yeah, Orange County Carlos. So
Orange
that'll be
County
coming your way.
Orange County Carlos is wow. He has to fly across the country and then across an ocean to get there, but he's going to do it. So, well, thank you so much for that. There's an Orange County in Florida too, so I shouldn't jump to conclusions where
That's
he
awesome,
lives.
Tyler. That's really, really great.
That's really great.
Yeah,
it's a
Hey,
great contribution, man.
I wasn't going to use them, so why not put them to a good spot? So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, maybe we'll get a stringer out of it that can maybe report to us in real time, because we don't have any confirmation whether or not that convention over there is going to be streaming anything. The last celebration over there did not stream.
Yeah, it did.
The U.S.
Sure, it did. Yeah, it did. Oh, yeah, it did. In 2016, that sucker streamed. Yeah, it did. That's when we were able to watch Baze Malbus on stage live, informing the world that everybody in Rogue One's dead at the end of the movie. And this was months before the movie was released. Remember?
That was from Celebration Europe?
That was Celebration Europe. Yeah. They streamed that one. And if Verizon or whatever other corporation wants to cough up the sponsorship money, there'll be streaming stuff out there. Now, whether or not they're going to send the whole three-ring circus that is the Star Wars.
Wait a minute, the wall-to-wall streaming that we have seen at the domestic conventions, they did that for Celebration Europe, or was that just that Rogue One panel?
No. They streamed the whole day. Yeah. Huh. I remember being on the train watching it.
I don't. Well, I
My
certainly
son's
remember.
band played the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Chicago that day, and I remember taking the train there, watching Star Wars Celebration Europe on my iPhone.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll do it again this year. Well, thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
We'll check in with you before we sign off here. But in the meantime, let's one last call. We've got John from Georgia. Hello, John. You're on with Rebel Force Radio. No pressure. Last call of the night.
Hello. Hey guys, I'll make this quick. I know that if you look at it, George Lucas took quite a bit of time to build up to the start of the Clone War, the first Clone Wars, going through the prequel trilogy movies, the first two. He took quite a bit of time, and then the actual Clone Wars series itself was a slow burn too. So given that Bad Batch is kind of setting up to be that same way, when would you say that the second Clone War is going to start? I'm going to go profit or loser, end of next season.
End of
all
next
the way to the
season.
end.
No, I think
by the end of this season might be premature.
I think it's going to be a. Well, I just think that we're already like at episode 14, and so we're at the point where you don't quite have, I think, enough for the clones to really rebel yet. So I think next season everything just completely deteriorates, and at the end of the season the war starts, and what happens happens.
I could see that.
Because I wouldn't want them to start it in the middle of the season. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't make it, to me, it wouldn't give the war time to breathe.
Yeah. So, John, do you think that there's going to be a second Clone War?
I do. I actually agreed with all of the things that you guys said about how it's called the Clone Wars, and we just haven't seen all of it yet. And there's got to be a reason why you only have, as far as we know, 4 living clones by the time Rebels starts. With that one clone that saw Obi-Wan, and then, not counting Boba Fett, that one clone that saw Obi-Wan in the Kenobi show, and then Rex, Wolf, and in Rebels. So where'd the rest of them go? So there had to be some sort of something like you said Filoni is a student of history, so this reminds me kind of like the ancient Mameluke rebellion in Egypt when they rebelled against I think it was the Ottoman Empire. And so it's something like that.
I'll have to take your word for that one.
Happening.
I'll take your word for that one, man. Sounds like you're a student of history as well.
Google knows everything.
Yeah. John.
Google knows everything.
Yeah, that's right, dude. It's always good to talk to you. Hey, thank you so much. Great thoughts by John. Yeah, I think that if
he calls in all the time, he's real good.
Yeah, he's a great caller. Oh, everybody's. The whole night was just full of great calls. Last night was great as well. It sounds like you guys are in for the ride. 2 after shows live each week over the next 5 weeks. We've got Mando Wednesdays, 9:00 p.m. Eastern Time. And we've got Bad Batch Thursdays, 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time. And you guys are showing up for it. I really, really, really appreciate it. It's fantastic. I do want to give a special thanks to Tyler Page, the official RFR call screener and the show observer. Tyler, we love having you here. You make our job so much easier by queuing up all of these great calls. Not a ton in this week's episode, but as I said, once you start scratching at it, you uncover more and more and more. And I feel that we've got some momentum building up with Bad Batch Season 2, and it's going to continue, and we're on a pretty steady ride of episodes that are going to have some real repercussions. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, first we had so many great callers tonight. Like, they just kept pouring in, so that was really refreshing.
No doubt, yeah. Awesome.
Especially riding the coattails of Mando. But I do got to say, Jennifer Corbett did serve in the Navy, so she is better. And then the one thing I really wanted to talk about was Hemlock and that interrogation scene with the little red laser that encapsulates Nalase or whatever. I thought the animation on that was really great, but for some reason the red hue was giving me a romantic vibe in the way that they were kind of just looking at each other.
Really?
And I felt like they were admiring each other as fellow scientists.
Look at this.
It was I don't know.
Did you feel the same way in The Phantom Menace when Obi-Wan Kenobi was behind that laser door and Darth Maul was staring him down? Did you feel that way
Maybe,
too? That was red.
Probably not. Probably not. But
Nala,
it's
we meet
something that
again.
popped into my head.
Yes, Royce. We meet again.
Exciting and new. I'm aboard. Mount Tantus is waiting for you.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I'm not going to sing the rest. Well,
That's
did
all
a
you
great
got?
job tonight, Tyler.
That's all
That's all I got. It was great seeing Mount
Thank you,
Tantus
brother.
again, There's a lot of good stuff there.
All right. Wrapping it up here. Episode 11, Season 2, Metamorphosis. Final thoughts, Jimmy Mack.
All right, final thoughts. Wow, we really covered a lot of ground on this conversation, so I don't have too much left except just some observations about the casting. We had Dr. Scalder, who was voiced by Helen Sadler, and she has a lot of Star Wars credits on her list, including Jen Erso in Star Wars Battlefront, providing the voice for Jen. In Battlefront and Forces of Destiny, she voiced Rey in Lego Star Wars The Resistance Rises and the Holidays Special, and she voiced an Ishi Tib in the Book of Boba Fett, so she's definitely in the stable of regular voice actors in the Star Wars universe. Dr. Hemlock was voiced by a guy named Jimmy Simpson, who's relatively new to voice acting, but he's been on camera for years. He's had recurring roles in House of Cards, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Westworld, and he was Lyle the Intern on the Late Show with David Letterman. So pretty interesting to see him now in the Star Wars universe, and this was his first Star Wars role. But most surprising was the inclusion of Keisha Castle-Hughes as Emery Carr. And she's known to Star Wars fans as playing the Naboo Queen Epeilana in Revenge of the Sith when they had the funeral procession for Padme. and the Naboo Queen was walking along with Jar Jar Binks. I think maybe a Seal Bibble was there to offer condolences, and Keisha Castle Hughes was on screen as the Naboo Queen in Revenge of the Sith. Well, she's back in Star Wars providing voices for Emery Carr. Also, we see V-Wings in this episode. Just a little simple observation I made. The V-Wings are precursors to TIE fighters. And you can tell because they use a similar sound effect for the engine of the V-Wing. We saw the V-Wing for the very first time at the end of Revenge of the Sith. Remember when Tarkin and Vader and Palpatine were staring out the Star Destroyer window at the Death Star being constructed, those V-Wings flying by, they sound just like TIE fighters. It got me thinking, will we see the introduction of the TIE fighter in the Bad Batch? Will they roll out the TIE fighter in some episode of the Bad Batch and make a big whoop-de-doo about that? Because that is probably the single most recognizable starship in the Empire as we know it. And so it'd be kind of cool to see that getting introduced for the first time, and maybe seeing some rebels crap their pants about it or something. I don't know. It'd be a lot of fun. This whole series is a lot of fun. Puffer Pig, not in this episode.
All right. Well, big thanks to everybody for showing up for us, not just tonight, but last night as well. Don't forget about Patreon. So if you head over to rebelforceradio.com, the official website, and you click on that Patreon banner, you'll get taken over to where you can choose the level of support that fits you and your budget. But don't forget, $1 gets you in the door, $2 a month, and you get all of the episodes ad-free. And there are several levels that you can check out. So go over to rebelforceradio.com, click on that Patreon banner. You'll get these exclusive podcasts that you just can't get anywhere else. And it is really one of the best communities of Star Wars fans you can possibly imagine. You heard from many of them tonight. If that's the kind of Star Wars, I would say, fair and balanced coverage and analysis of Star Wars that you're looking for, you'll find it in spades over on the Rebel Force Radio Patreon. Don't forget about our YouTube channel. Oh my gosh. The YouTube just keeps growing and growing over at youtube.com/Rebel Force Radio. In addition to all of the live after shows that we do exclusively on YouTube, you can find some great archives. We release the flagship weekly Rebel Force Radio podcast out there each and every week as well, so you can get the audio when it's released. Also, if there are some highlights, if you're an RFR All Access member, you get to see the full show video of the weekly Rebel Force Radio podcast. But we sometimes grab those highlights that just are too good to not let everybody see them, and we throw them up on YouTube, like Liam Neeson talking about the spinoffs hurting Star Wars. That's one that we had a lot of fun with. And we were visited by the spirit of Qui-Gon. No, not Qui-Gon. No, Qui-Gon. We were visited by the spirit there. And so check that all out.
Chilling. Hey, can I say something here?
Of course.
We forgot to follow up on our Bad Batch bingo. We received a few submissions of Bad Batch bingo cards this week, so we'll feature them on next week's show. Maddie in the chat reminded me. She's like, hey, I made a Bad Batch bingo card for you yahoos, and you completely blew it off. Well, no, we'll feature it next week. So if you guys want to get on board and make a Bad Batch bingo card, it's fun. We'll just put in there the things that you typically see in a Bad Batch episode, like, I don't know, Omega needs to be rescued, something like that,
Right.
You fill out your bingo card and you put all these little, tropes, Bad Batch tropes, fill it up with that. And we'll reveal what you guys came up with next week. Promise.
We'll do it. The website, of course, rebelforceradio.com for your source for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio. Check it out. Not only can you get the all of our podcasts, but you can also get sort of a preview, if you will, of the exclusive podcasts. So a lot of times there'll be a few minutes of these shows that'll be released, so you can get a sense of what you might get when you become a Patreon supporter. We're on all of the social media networks. We're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on there. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, so when we do these live after shows, you get a notification. Subscribe if you can to your favorite podcatcher of choice, to the Rebel Force Radio channel. And if you can also leave a review, we appreciate that. We just have one simple rule on those reviews.
Make them good.
And we'll be back next week with more Bad Batch After Show on Thursday. Don't forget Mandalorian Wednesdays, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time here on YouTube. And then Bad Batch on Thursdays, 8 o'clock p.m. So until next time, we will see you. Thank you very much, Tyler Page. Thanks very much, everybody, joining us. Until next week, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.